Hello my dark and beautiful souls, it is I, the City Witch UK. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing Baphomet Revealed, Mysteries and Magic of the Sacred Icon by Heather Lynn, PhD. So as always with my book reviews, I'm as honest as I possibly can be without being too negative. I like to try and stay as balanced as I possibly can with my reviews. However, everything said in this video is my honest thoughts, opinions and experiences while I read this book to its completion. I will give you positives and negatives that I personally noticed. I will score the book from 1 to 10 and let you know if it made it into my magical library or not. And hopefully by the end of this book review, you can decide if it's the right book for you or not. Let's begin by giving the back of the book a little read. What is Baphomet? This comprehensive and accessible history sets the record straight on this captivating icon of the occult. Baphomet, often misunderstood and cloaked in misinterpretations, has left an incredible mark on our collective consciousness, standing at the crossroads of the occult, religion and the quest for arcane knowledge. Baphomet's origins are as elusive as their symbolic form, yet we begin our inquiry with the Templars, where the name was perhaps first uttered. We trace Baphomet's course through history, their intersections with Gnostic thought, Freemasonry, the teachings of Aleister Crowley and Elias Levi, and the myriad occult groups that have drawn upon Baphomet's potent symbolism. This prerogative entity exists simultaneously as myth, magic and symbol. Over the years, Baphomet has been called a demon, deity and the devil himself, but Baphomet is none of these things. The figure is, in reality, a symbol, a complex cipher holding within their form the keys to profound philosophical and esoteric truths. So let's take a look at our contents. So we have our acknowledgements and introduction, which outlines Baphomet and the book. So it's called The Mystery of Baphomet. And then we have 7 chapters. Chapter 1, From Mispronunciation to Mystery, the Templar Origins of Baphomet. Chapter 2, The Sophia Connection, Baphomet, the Gnostics and Pathways of Knowledge. Chapter 3, Crafting a Symbol, Elias Levi, the Architect of Modern Baphomet. Chapter 4, Tracing the Threads, Baphomet's Link to Freemasonry and Secret Societies. Chapter 5, The Intersection of Thelma and Baphomet, Aleister Crowley's Great Beast. Chapter 6, The New Era, Baphomet in Contemporary Occult Groups and Beyond. And Chapter 7, Black and White Thinking, Seeing Beyond Good and Evil. And then we do have a couple of appendix lists at the back. So first of all, we have Baphomet Symbolism Analysis. That's a breakdown of Baphomet symbols. And then we have Baphomet Timeline, which is an abbreviated version of what you get in this book, which is a quick reference point, which makes it handy if you're trying to recall information. So I will give you a flip through of the book, but bear in mind, guys, most of this book is just information and knowledge. It's not a practical book, so you're not going to see spells or rituals or anything of that nature in this book. There are some fantastic imagery, so I will show you those and give you a breakdown of what is in this book chapter by chapter. So first of all, in chapter 1, we cover Dawn of the Templars and start our journey with them. We've got the Assassins and the Fall of the Templars. Then we go into Muhammad or Misunderstanding. As I say, we've got some beautiful images in the book. Symbolic Sacrifice is discussed. The Sophia Connection, chapter 2. So Sophia and Baphomet. The Cathars and the Templars. The Occult Rivalry. Pioneers of Esoteric Feminism. Cross-Culture Mysticism. Resurgence of Ancient Wisdom. Magic of the Renaissance. Post-Enlightenment. Crafting a Symbol, Elias Levi, the Architect of the Modern Baphomet. This was my favourite chapter. I thought it was absolutely beautifully presented, well detailed and explained. And I really liked Elias Levi's interpretation and artistic view of Baphomet. So we've got the icon, so how we end up with this symbol here for Baphomet. We take a look at the influence of Baphomet and the devil upon Rider-Waite Tarot and the devil card specifically, and how it's actually influenced by Elias Levi's Baphomet, which I actually didn't know, so that was very interesting. Then we've got sigils, lighting the path. Chapter 4, tracing the threads. So common threads. Baphomet worship. So here we can see Baphomet and some worshippers. Got a lot of old art in this book. So then we go into the intersections of Thelma and Baphomet. So we take a look at Crowley, the great beast himself. We've got the Book of Law, which is referenced quite a bit in this chapter. The product of an age. And then we go into the new era, Baphomet in contemporary occult groups and beyond. So this is how Baphomet transitioned into occult magic. So he became eventually the symbol of the left-hand path. So we've got a talk about rebellion, pop culture, black and white thinking. This was an interesting chapter. It was very deep and it gives you a lot to think about. So black and white and not allowing yourself to think in those terms. Into the Orange, I thought that was a funny title. The Mysteries, Dwelling in the Unknown, Quantum Realms. And then we end the book with our lists. So here is what I was talking about. So this is the breakdown. So we look at why Baphomet has a goat head, the pentagram, the torch between the horns, the body being male and female, making it quite neutral, and I suppose you could say asexual as well. The raised right hand and the lowered left hand, the wings, the rod or caducus, hooves and human feet, crescent moons, both black and white, Latin inscriptions, so we've got solve, which means loosen or dissolve, and then we've got coagula, which is to curdle or to clot. And then here is the second list, which is a breakdown of the history of Baphomet and how Baphomet transformed through the ages, which is just a quick reference. So, things I liked about this book. First of all, it was extremely informative, well written, unique, enjoyable, a little but very mighty book in my opinion, packed full of information. I really enjoyed Heather's approach to this topic, and you could tell that she enjoyed writing this book and that it was very well researched. Sources are cited and references are given. Heather really went to town on this book. Heather takes you on a journey through history so you can understand Baphomet's origins and follow his many evolutions right up until modern day. This includes a close look at very important people who played key roles in his history. I in particular enjoyed how Baphomet is used symbolically in modern day for things like rock bands, logos, t-shirts, mugs, etc. Heather encourages you to deeply think about if Baphomet is naturally changing with the times or if we are forcing a change upon him. Are we being disrespectful to his symbology by doing that? This made me think, and I wasn't expecting to get that deep with this subject, so it really made me consider my journey with Baphomet, the use of Baphomet as a symbol in my practice, and whether or not I've force changed upon Baphomet or if I've just gone with what I know about Baphomet. So it really made me think. And actually this year I've been taking a journey with the masculine divine, and one of the things that I chose to do for the first 2 months, so there'll be 6 gods in total, splitting the year up 2 months at a time. So January and February, I worked very closely with Baphomet, and it was a very interesting development in my practice because Baphomet didn't take me in a direction at all that I thought I was going to go in. It ended up being all about gender and sex and how that is transforming and shifting in modern society, and my acceptance or denial of that. It was really interesting, and I just didn't expect that, but I learned a lot. I think I've grown, and I think I understand Baphomet more as a result. So yeah, it definitely took me on a journey, and Heather definitely made me think and prioritize Baphomet a bit more in my practice and listen to the symbols coming through from Baphomet. So yeah, thank you for that, Heather. Heather debunks some incorrect information about Baphomet, correcting what people typically get wrong or confused about Baphomet. So for example, did you know that Baphomet isn't the same being as Lucifer, and yet people think Baphomet and Lucifer are the same? Baphomet and Lucifer are completely separate and have no connections historically whatsoever. Heather beautifully explains this in a clear way, backing this up with a lot of research and facts. The confusion comes in, she says, was because Baphomet's symbol is being used by various satanic groups who also practice Luciferian magic. So that's kind of where the confusion comes in, and people assume Baphomet is Lucifer or a symbol for Lucifer, and it's not. Baphomet's a completely separate symbol. So I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed the close look at how Elias Levi defined what we know to be the image of Baphomet that we have today. Then how along came Aleister Crowley, who again influenced even more changes. It was so interesting to see these very important men use the image of Baphomet and transform it to be something different and add to it or adapt Baphomet's imagery. So that was quite an interesting topic and something I did thoroughly enjoy about this book, and I was glad it was included. I found the breakdown of Baphomet's various symbols at the back of the book to be very handy. It was an excellent quick reference point and something that I think I will refer to time and time again. So that was a positive of this book. Getting to know Baphomet through this book made a few things very clear. Baphomet is the opposite to what the Christian God symbolizes. Their God is all about order, discipline, following rules, and conformity. Baphomet is more about fighting the patriarchy, about chaos and freedom and freeing yourself and not being in conflict with who you are. Baphomet is you as your godlike self, representing liberation. And that was very clearly put by Heather. Now, Heather does also kind of talk about Baphomet as more of a icon, a occult symbol. However, to me, Baphomet is an entity, a being that has been elevated to godlike status through history. And when you read this book, you can clearly see how that's happened, when that happened, where the elevation was occurring, and why Baphomet is an important symbol and deity today in many occult paths. So for me, Baphomet is definitely a powerful deity who has an influence upon my life and a being that I do like to work with. Now for the negatives. Sadly, this book doesn't contain any spells, rituals, or magical workings to do that will aid in your practice. It is purely a factual book filled with knowledge. Now, I knew that before I read this book. However, I would have really enjoyed from Heather a historical ritual that we know was used to summon or work with Baphomet, and maybe a modern interpretation on how to do that. And I don't think that's too far of a stretch for Heather because of the amount of research that Heather did. And even if Heather herself, because I don't actually know, but if they're not an occultist and they don't practice witchcraft or magic, I think including that and just allowing us to play around with that would have been a fantastic end to this book. So because something like that wasn't included, or even a look at certain rituals that were done with Baphomet, for me, it just made the book feel a tiny bit incomplete. Not sure why, but Heather didn't discuss the satanic panic at all in this book, but I think it does have relevance and would have loved Heather's thoughts on this in relation to Baphomet, but it's just not included in this book. And I have read other books where Baphomet has been included, the same with Lucifer, and a general look at the occult practices and the satanic panic. And you can see how it has an influence on occult practices and what it did to practices when it occurred. So I think it could have been included in this book, and it would have been just a really nice added chapter. Although the book is very informative, I mean extremely informative, guys, covering a wide range of topics, it did feel a little bit incomplete, like there was more, like there is more out there that could be discussed and added about Baphomet. Perhaps Heather's planning to write a book 2, a follow-up, I don't know. But when I got to the end of this, it just felt like there was more, like we were leading up to something and then that just didn't happen. So I don't know whether it's just the way I read the book and interpreted it, but I just felt like there was more to say. The other weird thing for me was when you finish chapter 7, it just goes straight away into the lists at the back of the book. There was no conclusion to the book, so that also felt a little bit weird to me. And the last thing I want to say is Heather challenges us to carefully think about how we are using Baphomet in modern day, pointing out that in some ways we may be disrespecting this entity and trying to change him to please ourselves. I personally disagreed with some of the points that Heather made, and I think that Baphomet is clearly a very adaptable being, as clearly shown through the history lesson that we take in this book. So I think Baphomet will continue to shift and change, and I think there are powerful, very influential occultists out there that will yet again alter the image of Baphomet, just like Crowley did, from the image we have from Elias Levi. So I do think we will see lots of changes and adaptations of Baphomet as time goes on, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Baphomet changes. But there is also a danger that we could change Baphomet into something that he's not meant to be, and I think there's also a danger that we can lose the origins of Baphomet and what Baphomet stands for. So with that in mind, Baphomet changing and people changing him is okay so long as it's done with respect, but if respect isn't shown and we're trying to turn him into something he's not meant to be, then the disrespect comes in. So there has to be a balance, which again is kind of covered in the, you know, black and white chapter, which was chapter 7, and things not being exactly black and white, because Baphomet is kind of a combination of many things, which is why I said Baphomet for me is very adaptable. So I will be keeping this book. I thought it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. 8 out of 10 from me. And I do recommend this book if you want to learn about Baphomet. It's an excellent introduction to what Baphomet is as a concept and idea, as a symbol and icon, and then later develops into a entity / deity. So if that's something that interests you, you're thinking about working with this symbol, or maybe you're dipping your toes into occult practices, the Luciferian paths, or something of that nature, this book really could add to that, and I think you will find it very enjoyable. I know I certainly did. So thank you for watching my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this book, and let me know if you have it and you've read it and what you got from it. But yeah, I do think this is a really good book, and thank you to Heather Lynn for writing it. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video and the content on my channel, please give me a thumbs up, click the bell, and YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. Comment, engage, like, share. The more you interact with my channel, the more you're boosting me and helping me with the algorithm, and I appreciate it, guys, so very much. If you'd like to support my channel with light and love, there is my Amazon wishlist and my PayPal link if you wish to tip me or purchase one of the books from my list for me to review. So thank you to anybody who chooses to do that. If you'd like to get in touch with me, book any of my magical divination or healing services, or just simply get in touch with me to ask some questions or open a dialogue about occult practices, you can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, X, and via email, and all the links are given, guys. Just go to the description of the video. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I appreciate your support. As always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in my next video. Blessed be.